I wake up early, the faint light of dawn creeping through the kitchen window as I stumble toward the stove. The smell of coffee fills the air, and I can hear the quiet crunching of cereal from the table where my 7-year-old son, Oliver, sits. He's got his little legs swinging under the chair, a bowl of sugary flakes in front of him, and his messy brown hair sticking up from sleep. I flip a pancake on the griddle, trying to keep things normal, but today isn't normal. It's my ex-wife's sister's wedding, and somehow, we're invited. I don't even know why I said yes. Maybe it's for Oliver. He still loves his mom's family, even after everything they've done to us. They tossed us aside like we were nothing, but he doesn't see that yet. He's too young, too good-hearted. It's been 2 years since Madeline left me. 2 years since she traded me in for some guy with deeper pockets and a fancier car. I still remember the day she walked out, her heels clicking on the floor as she told me I wasn't enough. Back then, I was managing a decent restaurant, pulling in good money, but after she left, everything fell apart. The stress got to me, I lost focus, and the owner demoted me to waiter. Now I'm working double shifts, pouring coffee and clearing plates just to keep a roof over Oliver's head. My hands shake a little as I pour syrup on his pancake and slide it across the table. He looks up at me with those big blue eyes, her eyes, and smiles. "Thanks, Dad," he says, and it's enough to keep me going. But tonight's going to test me. I'll have to walk into that wedding and face Beverly, my ex-mother-in-law. She's never bothered to hide how much she hates me. From the first day Madeline brought me home, Beverly's lip curled like I was dirt on her shoe. "A restaurant worker?" she'd said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Really, Madeline, you can do better." She didn't care that I was good at my job or that I loved her daughter. To her, I was trash because I didn't come from money. And when Madeline left me, Beverly acted like it proved she'd been right all along. I can already picture her tonight, standing there in some overpriced dress, smirking at me like I'm a bug she wants to squash. I take a sip of my coffee, the bitterness matching my mood. Oliver's still eating, oblivious to the storm brewing in my head. I don't want him to see it. He's why I keep my chin up, why I don't let the weight of it all crush me. He doesn't deserve to carry my baggage. "You excited to see Aunt Celia get married?" I ask, forcing a smile. He shrugs, poking at his pancake. "I guess. She's kinda mean, though." I laugh a little, surprised at how sharp he is for a kid. He's right. Celia's just like her mom, always looking down on me. But I don't say that. Instead, I ruffle his hair and tell him to finish eating. We've got a long day ahead. Getting ready feels like gearing up for battle. I dig through my closet for something decent to wear, my old suit from when I was a manager. It's a little tight now, but it'll do. I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror, my face tired and lined from too many late nights. I'm only 35, but I feel older. Oliver comes in wearing the button-up shirt I ironed for him, and he looks so small, so innocent. "Do I look okay, Dad?" he asks, tugging at the collar. "You look perfect, buddy," I say, and I mean it. He's the best thing in my life, the only thing that keeps me from giving up. As we head out the door, I grab the car keys and take a deep breath. The wedding's at some fancy hotel, the kind of place I'd never step foot in if it weren't for this. I know what's waiting for me there. Beverly's sharp tongue, Celia's fake smiles, and a room full of people who think I'm a failure. Maybe Madeline will even show up with her new guy, just to twist the knife a little more. My stomach churns at the thought, but I push it down. I've faced worse than this. I've lost my wife, my job, my pride, but I've still got Oliver. And for him, I'll walk into that lion's den with my head held high. I start the car, glance at him in the passenger seat, and tell myself I can do this. For my son, I can do anything. The drive to the Blackwood Grand Hotel feels longer than it should, the hum of the car's engine filling the silence between me and Oliver. He's sitting next to me, his little hands folded in his lap, staring out the window at the passing trees. I grip the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white as I try to focus on the road instead of the mess waiting for us at the end of it. The invitation to Celia's wedding sits heavy in my mind, like a stone I can't shake loose. It came in the mail last week, all fancy paper and gold lettering, addressed to Daniel and Oliver. I almost threw it in the trash, but Oliver saw it first, his eyes lighting up at the idea of a party. I couldn't say no to him, even if every part of me screamed to stay home. "Why do we have to go, Dad?" Oliver's voice cuts through the quiet, small but sharp. I glance over at him, his brow furrowed like he's trying to solve a puzzle. Aunt Celia never liked you. His words hit me like a punch, not because they hurt, but because he's right. He's only 7, but he sees more than I give him credit for. I force a smile, keeping my voice steady. We're going because family is family, bud. Sometimes you show up even when it's hard. It's a weak answer, and I know it. He doesn't push back, just nods and turns back to the window. But his question sticks with me, rattling around in my head as the miles roll by. Truth is, I don't have a good reason. Celia's never hidden how she feels about me. She's Madeline's younger sister, spoiled rotten by Beverly, and raised to think anyone without a fat bank account is beneath her. I still remember the first time I met her, back when Madeline and I were dating. She smirked at me across the dinner table, twirling her fork like a princess, and said, "So, you work at a restaurant?" Like, flipping burgers. Madeline laughed it off, but I felt the sting. Celia's been throwing jabs like that ever since, and tonight, she's the bride, the star of the show. I can already picture her in some over-the-top gown, looking down her nose at me while she says her vows. The closer we get to the hotel, the heavier my chest feels. I know why they invited me, deep down. It's not about family or kindness. It's a setup. Beverly's behind it. I'd bet my last dollar. She's probably itching to parade me in front of her rich friends, the poor ex-son-in-law who couldn't keep her daughter happy. Look at him. I can't hear her saying, demoted to a waiter, raising that boy all alone. She'll smile that cold, fake smile of hers, and they'll all laugh. It's a game to her, a chance to remind me I don't belong in their world. And maybe I don't. But Oliver does. He's got their blood, even if they treat him like he's less because of me. The hotel comes into view, all glass and stone, towering over the street like it's daring me to step inside. It's the kind of place where a night costs more than I make in a month. I pull into the parking lot, the gravel crunching under the tires, and cut the engine. Oliver unbuckles his seatbelt and looks at me, his blue eyes searching my face. "You okay, Dad?" he asks, and I hate that he's worried about me. I should be the strong one here. "Yeah, I'm fine," I say, ruffling his hair. "Let's go in, huh? Maybe they'll have cake." He grins at that, and for a second, I feel lighter. Cake's a small thing, but it's something to hold on to. We climb out of the car, and I straighten my jacket, the old suit pulling tight across my shoulders. Oliver's in his button-up, looking sharper than I do, and I take his hand as we head toward the entrance. The doors slide open, and the air inside hits me. Cool and scented with flowers, nothing like the greasy diner smell I'm used to. A woman in a black dress greets us, checking names off a list. Daniel and Oliver. I say, my voice rougher than I mean it to be. She nods, barely looking up, and hands me a program. I glance at it, Celia's name in huge letters, her groom's name smaller beside it. James, some guy I met once. He seemed decent, but I doubt he knows what he's walking into with this family. The lobby's buzzing with people, all dressed in clothes that scream money. I feel their eyes on me as we walk past, my worn shoes clicking on the marble floor. Oliver sticks close, his hand tight in mine, and I can tell he's nervous. "It's okay," I whisper, more for myself than him. "We'll just say hi and eat some food, then we're out." But even as I say it, I know it won't be that simple. Beverly's waiting in there, and so is the humiliation she's planned for me. I take a deep breath, square my shoulders, and lead Oliver toward the ballroom. Family is family, I told him. But right now, I'm wondering if I've made a terrible mistake. We step into the ballroom of the Blackwood Grand Hotel, and it's like walking into a different world, one I don't belong in. The ceiling's dripping with chandeliers, all sparkling glass and gold, throwing light across the room like it's daytime. The tables are covered in white cloths, fancy silverware gleaming, and there's a buzz of voices from people who look like they've never worried about a bill in their lives. Oliver's hand is still in mine, his fingers gripping a little tighter as we weave through the crowd. I can feel eyes on us already, little glances and whispers, and my stomach twists. I knew this wouldn't be easy, but being here, surrounded by all this, makes me feel smaller than I expected. I scan the room, looking for our seats, hoping we can just sit down and blend in for a while. A waiter in a crisp black uniform brushes past me, carrying a tray of champagne, and I almost laugh. It's the closest I've felt to normal all night. Then I see it. My seat. It's smack in the middle of the hall, not tucked away in a corner like I'd hoped, but right where everyone can get a good look. There's a chair with a little card on it. and even from a few feet away, I can read the bold, black letters screaming out at me. Single father, waiter. My heart stops for a second, then starts pounding hard, like it's trying to break out of my chest. It's not just a seat, it's a spotlight, a big, ugly sign telling everyone exactly who I am and what they think of me. The room's still humming with chatter, but it feels like everything slows down as I stare at that card. Oliver tugs at my hand, his voice quiet. Dad, what's that say? I swallow hard, trying to keep my face steady. It's just our spot, buddy. I lie, guiding him toward it. I can feel the heat creeping up my neck as we get closer, and then it happens. The laughter starts. It's soft at first, a few snickers from the tables nearby, but it spreads fast, rolling through the crowd like a wave. My face burns, the kind of shame that makes you want to disappear, but I keep walking. I've got no choice. I pull out Oliver's chair for him, and he sits, looking around with those big eyes, confused but not saying anything yet. I'm about to sit down when the microphone crackles to life, and I hear her voice, Beverly's voice, sharp and loud, cutting through the noise like a knife. Look, everyone. Tonight's waiter has arrived, she says, and the laughter explodes again, louder this time. I freeze, my hand on the back of my chair, and turn to see her standing at the front of the room, microphone in one hand, a glass of wine in the other. She's dressed in a dark green gown, her gray hair piled high, and that smirk I know so well is plastered across her face. A used product, she goes on. Serving tables and raising a child alone. The room's roaring now, people clapping like it's some kind of show, and I can feel every pair of eyes drilling into me. My hands curl into fists at my sides, nails digging into my palms. I want to yell back, to tell her she's wrong, that I'm more than this, but the words stick in my throat. I've taken a lot over the years, Madeline leaving, the demotion, the late nights. But this is a new low. I glance at Oliver, needing to know he's okay, and what I see stops me cold. His small hands are shaking, resting on the table in front of him, and his jaws tight, his lips pressed into a thin line. He's not crying, though. He's angry. I've never seen him like this, my quiet, sweet kid, and it hits me hard. He's feeling this as much as I am. The laughter's still echoing, Beverly's still smirking, but I can't move. I'm stuck there, pinned under the weight of it all. I want to grab Oliver and run, get us out of this place and never look back, but my legs won't work. I'm supposed to be the strong one, the dad who keeps it together, but right now, I feel like I'm falling apart. Beverly's voice fades as she hands the microphone off, probably satisfied with her little performance, and the guests start talking again, their heads turning back to their plates and drinks. But I can still hear the echoes of their laughs in my head, each one like a slap. I force myself to sit down, the chair creaking under me, and I lean close to Oliver. You okay, bud? I ask, my voice low, shaky. He doesn't look at me, just nods once, his eyes fixed on the table. They're mean, he mutters, and it's so simple, so true, that it almost breaks me. Yeah, I say, resting a hand on his shoulder. They are. I want to tell him it doesn't matter, that we're better than this, but the words feel hollow even to me. My face is still hot, my heart's still racing, and I know everyone's watching, waiting for me to crack. But I won't. Not here, not in front of him. For Oliver, I keep my head up, even if it's the hardest thing I've ever done. The laughter's still ringing in my ears, a dull roar that won't let go, as I sit there next to Oliver in the middle of this fancy ballroom. My hands are clenched tight under the table, trying to hold on to something, anything, to keep me from losing it. Beverly's up there, soaking in her victory, her green dress shimmering under the chandelier light like she's some kind of queen. The guests are settling down now, turning back to their champagne and appetizers, but I can still feel their eyes flicking over to me, waiting for me to do something stupid. I won't give them the satisfaction. I'm here for Oliver, I keep telling myself, and that's the only thing keeping my butt in this chair instead of storming out the door. Then, before I can even catch my breath, Oliver moves. He's out of his seat, standing up straight, his little frame looking so small against the huge room. My heart lurches. What's he doing? I reach out to grab his arm, to pull him back down where it's safe, but he's already stepping away, his sneakers quiet on the polished floor. The chatter in the room dies down fast, like someone flipped a switch, and suddenly it's so silent I can hear my own breathing. Every head turns, eyes locking on my 7-year-old son as he walks toward the front, right where Beverly's standing with that smug look still on her face. I'm frozen, my mouth dry, not sure if I should stop him or let him go. He's heading for the microphone, the one Beverly just used to tear me apart. My stomach twists into knots. What's he thinking? He's just a kid. He doesn't know how to handle this. But there's something in the way he's moving, his shoulders squared, his steps sure, that makes me hold back. The guests are murmuring now, little whispers bouncing around the room, and even Celia, the bride, looks confused. She's up there in her white dress, all lace and pearls, her perfect day interrupted by this tiny figure marching toward her. Beverly's smirk falters just a bit, and I can see her eyes narrow, like she's trying to figure out what's happening. Oliver reaches the microphone stand, and it's almost funny how he has to stretch up on his toes to get close enough. The room's so quiet now you could hear a pin drop, and I'm gripping the edge of the table, my knuckles white. He doesn't look at me, doesn't hesitate, just takes the microphone in his small hands and says, clear as day, I have a gift for the bride. His voice is steady, louder than I've ever heard it, and it cuts through the silence like a blade. I blink, my mind racing. What gift? We didn't bring anything. I told him we'd just show up, eat, and leave. My chest tightens, a mix of pride and panic swirling inside me. Celia laughs, but it's not real. It's nervous, shaky, like she's trying to play along but doesn't know the rules. Oh, what gift? She says, stepping closer to him, her veil trailing behind her like a ghost. She's smiling, but it's tight, her eyes darting to the crowd, then back to Oliver. The guests lean forward in their seats, curious, some of them chuckling like this is a cute little kid moment. But I know my son. That look on his face, the way his jaw's set, it's not cute. It's something else, something I didn't teach him but must have been there all along, waiting for a moment like this. Oliver tilts his head, looking up at Celia with those big blue eyes, and for a second, he just stares at her. The room's holding its breath, and so am I. Then he says, actually, she is, and lets the words hang there, unfinished. Celia's smile drops, her face going stiff, like she's just realized this isn't a game. The chuckles from the crowd fade, replaced by a weird, tense quiet. I can see James, the groom, shifting in his spot up front, his hands fidgeting with his tie. Beverly's stepping forward now, her mouth opening like she's about to say something, but Oliver's not done. He's got that microphone tight in his grip, and I can tell he's not backing down. My mind's spinning, trying to figure out what he's up to. A gift? She is what? I don't know where this is going, but I can feel the air in the room changing, crackling with something I can't name. Oliver's always been quiet, thoughtful, but this is different. He's not just my little boy right now. He's something bigger, something fierce. I want to stand up, to go to him, but my legs won't move. I'm stuck watching, waiting, my heart hammering against my ribs. Celia's staring at him, her perfect bride mask slipping, and I can see the worry in her eyes. Whatever's coming, she's not ready for it, and neither am I. The silence stretches, heavy and thick, and I realize I'm holding my breath. Oliver's still standing there, small but steady, the center of everyone's attention. I don't know what he's about to do, but I know it's going to change everything. My hands unclench from the table, trembling just a little, and I lean forward, needing to hear what comes next. He's my son, my kid, and right now, he's braver than I've ever been. For the first time tonight, I'm not thinking about Beverly's insults or the laughter or that stupid sign on my chair. All I can see is Oliver, and all I can feel is this strange, wild hope that whatever he's got planned, it's going to turn this night upside down. I'm sitting there, my heart pounding so hard it feels like it's going to bust right out of my chest, watching Oliver stand at that microphone in the middle of the Blackwood Grand Hotel ballroom. The room's dead quiet now, every eye glued to my 7-year-old son, who's somehow taken over this whole fancy wedding. Celia's up there in her big white dress, her face pale under all that makeup, and I can see her hands twitching like she's not sure what to do. Beverly's frozen a few steps behind her, her mouth half open, like she wants to stop this but doesn't know how. Me? I'm just trying to breathe, my mind racing to catch up with whatever Oliver's about to pull. He reaches into his pocket, slow and deliberate, and pulls out my old phone, the one Madeline left behind when she walked out on us 2 years ago. It's scratched up, the screen cracked in one corner, but it still works. I haven't touched it in months, Figured it was just junk taking up space in. How'd he even get it? I don't have time to wonder, because he's holding it up now, his small fingers tapping the screen like he knows exactly what he's doing. The guests are leaning in, some of them whispering, others just staring with wide eyes. I can feel the sweat on my palms, my stomach twisting as he presses play. A sound crackles through the speakers, faint at first, then louder, a woman's voice. It's Celia. I'd know that snobby tone anywhere, even if it's hushed, like she's trying to keep it secret. Madeline, she's saying, I don't love James. I love Daniel. Your husband. I always have. That's why I convinced you to leave him. The words hit me like a truck, slamming into my chest and knocking the air out of me. Gasps ripple through the room, sharp and loud, and I can hear chairs creaking as people turn to look at each other. My head's spinning. Daniel? Me? She's talking about me? I blink hard, trying to make sense of it, but it's like the floor is dropping out from under me. Celia's face goes white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. James, the groom, is standing up front, and I can see his hands drop to his sides, his whole body going stiff. His face is pale too, his eyes locked on Celia like he's seeing her for the first time. Beverly's smirk is gone now, wiped clean off, and she takes a step back, her wine glass trembling in her hand. The air's thick, buzzing with tension, like everyone's holding their breath waiting for what comes next. Oliver doesn't move, just stands there with the phone in his hand, his little face calm but fierce, like he knew exactly what he was doing when he hit play. The recording keeps going, and then I hear her, Madeline. My ex-wife's voice, cool and careless, like she's talking about the weather. Celia, I don't care, she says. Take Daniel if you want. I've already moved on. My throat tightens, a sharp sting hitting me right in the gut. I knew she'd stopped loving me, knew she'd picked someone else, but hearing it like that, like I was nothing, like I was something to toss around, it hurts more than I thought it would. The guests are buzzing now, heads turning, voices rising, and I can feel their stares shifting to me. I keep my eyes on Oliver, though, because he's the only thing keeping me grounded right now. Celia finally snaps out of it, her voice shrill as she lunges toward Oliver. It's fake, she yells, her hands flailing like she can grab the words out of the air and shove them back. That's not real. He made it up, but no one's buying it. The recording's too clear, her voice too unmistakable. James takes a step back, his jaw tight, and I can see the hurt in his eyes, hurt and anger mixing together. Celia, he says, low and rough, but she doesn't even look at him. She's too busy glaring at Oliver, her perfect bride act crumbling fast. The crowd's whispering louder now, some of them pointing, others shaking their heads like they can't believe what they just heard. I'm still stuck in my chair, my hands gripping the table so hard my fingers ache. Part of me wants to laugh. Justice, right there, served up by my own kid, but mostly I'm just stunned. Celia loved me, convinced Madeline to leave me. It doesn't even make sense. I never saw it, never thought she felt anything but disgust for me. And Madeline, just handing me over like I was a toy she didn't want anymore. It's a punch I didn't see coming. I look at Oliver, and he glances back at me for the first time since he started this, his blue eyes steady. He doesn't say anything, but I can feel it. He did this for me. My chest swells, pride and pain all mixed up, and I nod at him, just a little, to let him know I'm okay. The room's a mess now, people talking over each other, some laughing, some gasping like it's a soap opera playing out live. Celia is frozen again, her hands clenched at her sides, and James is shaking his head, backing away from her like he can't stand to be close. Beverly's muttering something, trying to step in, but it's too late. The damage is done. Oliver sets the phone down on the table next to the microphone, calm as anything, and walks back to me. The crowd parts for him, and when he sits down, he looks up and says, I found it last week. I knew it'd help. I don't know what to say, so I just pull him close, my arm around his shoulders, and hold on tight. He's small, but right now, he's the biggest thing in this room. I'm sitting there, my arms still around Oliver, the ballroom spinning into chaos around us. The recording's done playing, but its echoes are bouncing off the walls, stirring up the crowd like a kicked beehive. People are talking all at once, their voices loud and sharp, chairs scraping as some stand to get a better look. My head's still reeling from what I heard. Celia's confession, Madeline's cold shrug, and I can barely think straight. Oliver's pressed against my side, his small body warm and steady, and I'm holding on to him like he's the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The phone's sitting there on the table up front, a cracked little bomb that just blew this wedding to pieces. James breaks the silence first, his voice cutting through the noise like a crack of thunder. "What is this?" he demands, staring at Celia. His face is red now, not pale anymore, and his hands are shaking at his sides. He's a big guy, broad shoulders and that fancy tux, but right now he looks like he's about to break. Celia stumbles over her words, her veil slipping as she turns to him. It's fake," she says again, louder this time, but it's weak, desperate. She's pointing at Oliver, her finger trembling. He's lying. That kid made it up. But the recording's still fresh in everyone's ears, and I can see the doubt on James's face, the way his eyes narrow like he's putting it all together. Then Madeline's voice comes back through the speakers in my mind, even though the phone's off now. "Take Daniel if you want. I've already moved on." I shut my eyes for a second, the sting of it hitting me again. I loved her once, gave her everything I had, and she threw me away like trash. Now I find out her sister was part of it, pushing her to leave me because she wanted me for herself? It's twisted, and it hurts, but there's a strange relief in it too, knowing it wasn't all my fault. I open my eyes and look at Oliver, his little jaw set tight. He's watching the mess unfold, and I wonder how long he's been carrying this, planning this. James isn't waiting for more excuses. He yanks at his tie, loosening it like it's choking him, and then he grabs the wedding ring off his finger. "We're done," he says, his voice hard and final. He throws the ring down, and it hits the floor with a sharp clink, rolling under a table. The crowd gasps, some people clapping like it's a show, others whispering in shock. Celia screams, a high, frantic sound, and lunges for him, grabbing his sleeve. "James, no. You don't understand," she yells, but he shakes her off, his face dark with anger. He doesn't even look back as he storms toward the exit, his shoes loud on the marble floor. Beverly finally moves, rushing forward like she can fix this. "James, wait," she calls, her voice sharp, but he's already gone, the doors swinging shut behind him. She spins around, her green dress swishing, and glares at Celia. "What have you done?" she hisses, but Celia's too busy sobbing, her hands covering her face, mascara streaking down her cheeks. The guests are on their feet now, some heading for the bar, others clustering in little groups, their whispers growing into a roar. I can hear bits of it. "Did you hear that? She loved the waiter?" Poor James. And it's like I'm not even here, just a ghost in their gossip. I look at Beverly, and she's staring right back at me, her eyes burning with hate. For once, though, I don't feel small under that look. I feel something else, something hot and steady building in my chest. Justice. After all the years of her sneers, her insults, her treating me like dirt, it's finally turning back on her. I can't help it, I smile. It's small at first, just a twitch of my lips, but it grows, real and solid. She sees it, and her face twists, like she can't stand that I'm not crumbling. She takes a step toward me, but the crowd's too thick now, people milling around, and she's stuck. The chaos is everywhere, waiters dodging guests, glasses clinking, Celia's cries cutting through it all. I pull Oliver closer, my arm tight around him. "You did good, buddy," I whisper, my voice rough. He looks up at me, his blue eyes bright, and nods. "I didn't like them laughing at you," he says, simple and true, and it hits me hard. He's 7, but he's got more guts than I've had in years. I ruffle his hair, trying to keep my hands steady, and glance around. Madeline's not here. I'd have seen her by now, and I'm glad. I don't think I could face her after that recording. Not tonight. The wedding's falling apart, piece by piece. Celia's slumped in a chair now, her dress crumpled, and Beverly's barking orders at some poor waiter, trying to take control. But it's over. The perfect day they planned, the one where they'd laugh at me and show off their money, it's gone. I lean back in my chair, still smiling, and watch it all burn down. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I've won something. Not because I wanted revenge, but because the truth came out, and it wasn't me who looked small in the end. Oliver did that. My kid. And right now, that's all I need to hold on to. I'm still sitting there, the chaos of the wedding swirling around me like a storm I can't escape, but I've had enough. The air is thick with the smell of spilled wine and too much perfume, and Celia's sobs are bouncing off the walls, mixing with the buzz of the guests who can't stop talking about what just happened. Oliver's next to me, his small hand resting on the table, and I can feel the weight of the night pressing down on us both. My smile's still there, faint but real, because for once, I'm not the one everyone's laughing at. But I don't want to stay here, soaking in this mess. I want out. I want quiet. I want to breathe again. I lean down to Oliver, keeping my voice low so no one else hears. You ready to go, bud? He looks up at me, his blue eyes steady, and nods. Yeah, Dad. This place is loud. I almost laugh. He's right. It's a circus now, and we don't need to be part of it anymore. I push my chair back, the legs scraping against the floor, and stand up, feeling every ache in my body from sitting too long, from carrying too much. Oliver hops down beside me, and I take his hand. It's warm and small in mine, and it's all the strength I need to start walking. The crowd parts a little as we move, people still whispering, some pointing, but I don't care. My head's up, my shoulders straight, and for the first time tonight, I feel like I'm not shrinking under their stares. We pass tables littered with half-eaten food and empty glasses, the chandeliers throwing light across everything like it's trying to make it pretty again. It's not. It's a wreck. Celia is crying into her hands up front, Beverly snapping at some waiter, and the guests are buzzing like flies on a carcass. I don't see Madeline anywhere, and I'm glad. After that recording, I don't know what I'd say to her, and I don't want to find out. We're almost to the doors when I hear footsteps behind me, quick and heavy. I turn, and it's James, his tux jacket unbuttoned, his face still tight with anger, but softer now, like he's let some of it go. He catches up, stopping just short of us, and runs a hand through his hair. Daniel, he says, his voice rough. I should have listened when you warned me about them. I blink, surprised he remembers. It was years ago, back when Madeline and I were still together, and I'd told him over a beer that her family was trouble. He'd laughed it off then, said Celia was different. Guess he knows better now. I nod, not sure what to say. Yeah, well, I didn't see this coming either, I tell him, glancing at Oliver. James looks down at my son, and a small, tired smile tugs at his mouth. Kid's got guts, he says, and I feel a swell of pride. Yeah, he does. James sticks out his hand, and I shake it, his grip firm but not rough. Take care, man, he says, then turns and walks off into the parking lot, his shoulders slumped but his head high. I watch him go, feeling a strange kind of respect. He's hurting, but he's not broken. Maybe I'm not either. The doors slide open, and the cool night air hits us, washing away the stuffy ballroom smell. I take a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs, and Oliver squeezes my hand. That was crazy, huh? He says, and I laugh, a real one this time, rough and loud. Yeah, buddy, it was. We start toward the car, the gravel crunching under our feet, and I can still hear the muffled chaos from inside, but it's fading fast. The stars are out, bright against the dark sky, and for a second, it's just me and Oliver and the quiet. No more insults, no more smirks, no more single father, waiter, signs burning into my skin. I unlock the car, and Oliver climbs into the passenger seat, buckling himself in like he always does. I slide behind the wheel, my hands resting on it for a moment before I start the engine. I look over at him, his little face lit by the dashboard glow, and he's smiling. Just a little, but it's there. You okay? I ask, needing to be sure. He nods. They can't laugh at us anymore, he says, and it's so simple, so true, that it settles something deep inside me. No, they can't. I agree, and I mean it. As we pull out of the lot, the hotel shrinking in the rearview mirror, I feel lighter than I have in years. Inside, Celia's world is falling apart. Her groom gone, her secrets out, her perfect day ruined. Beverly's probably still trying to control it, but there's nothing left to save. And me? I'm driving away with my son, my dignity intact, maybe even stronger than before. Oliver did that. He took their game and flipped it, and I'll never forget it. The road stretches out ahead, dark and empty, but it doesn't feel lonely. It feels like freedom. For the first time in a long time, I'm leaving with my head high, and it's not just for show, it's real. 3 months have passed since that wild night at the Blackwood Grand Hotel, and life's taken a turn I never saw coming. I'm standing in the kitchen of our little apartment, flipping pancakes like I always do, but today feels different, better. The smell of coffee mixes with the syrup, and Oliver's at the table, scribbling in a notebook instead of munching cereal. He's been doing that a lot lately, writing little stories or drawing pictures, and I don't ask too much about it. He's happy, and that's enough for me. The sun's coming through the window, warm and bright, and for once, I don't feel that heavy weight sitting on my chest. Everything changed after the wedding. Oliver's speech, or that recording, really went viral. Some guest must have filmed it, because a few days later, it was all over the internet. Kid shuts down wedding with secret recording was the headline I saw most, and there was my boy, standing at that microphone, playing Celia's confession for the world. I didn't know how to feel at first. Proud, sure, but also worried about what it'd mean for us. People recognized us at the diner where I worked, whispering and pointing, and I thought it'd just be more humiliation. But then something crazy happened. A guy named Mr. Carter, a local businessman who owns a bunch of restaurants, saw the video and tracked me down. I remember the day he walked into the diner, a big man in a sharp suit, looking out of place among the chipped tables and sticky floors. He sat down, ordered a coffee, and said, "You're Daniel, right? The single father from that wedding clip?" I nodded, bracing myself for a lecture or a laugh, but he just smiled. "You've got grit," he said, "and your kid's a firecracker. I need someone like you running my new place downtown." I thought he was joking. Me, a waiter with no money and a busted-up life, owning a restaurant? But he wasn't. He offered me the job on the spot, said he'd front the cash to get it going if I'd manage it. I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. So now I'm not a waiter anymore. I'm a restaurant owner, or at least I will be once we open next month. I quit the diner last week, and it felt good to walk out of there. No more double shifts, no more sore feet from standing all night. The new place isn't fancy like the Blackwood, but it's mine. Well, mine and Mr. Carter's. It's got a simple name, Oliver's Kitchen, because I wouldn't have it without him. He grinned when I told him, said it sounded cool, and that was that. I'm still getting used to the idea, still waking up some mornings thinking I've got to clock in at the diner, but then I remember, I'm building something now, not just scraping by. Celia's gone quiet since that night. Word is she left town, couldn't handle the gossip after James walked out. Beverly's taken a hit too. Once the queen of her little rich circle, now she's a punchline. I hear people laugh about her at the grocery store, saying she got what she deserved. I don't go looking for news about them, though. I'm done with that family, done letting them take up space in my head. But then, a few days ago, something showed up in the mail, a letter, handwritten, from Beverly. I stared at it for a long time before opening it, my hands shaking a little. "I was wrong about you," it said. "I am sorry." That was it, short and plain, no fancy words or excuses. I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me wanted to rip it up, let the pieces scatter in the trash where her opinion belonged. She'd spent years tearing me down, and now she's sorry? But another part of me, the part that's tired of carrying all that anger, felt different. I sat there at the kitchen table, Oliver asleep in his room, and thought about it. She doesn't get a free pass, not after everything, but maybe I don't need to hold on to the hate anymore. So I grabbed a pen and wrote back, just a few words. "I forgive, but I will never forget." I mailed it the next day, and when I dropped it in the box, it was like letting go of something heavy I didn't even know I was still holding. Now, as I slide a pancake onto Oliver's plate, I feel lighter. He looks up from his notebook and smiles. "Thanks, Dad," he says, and I ruffle his hair. "You're welcome, bud." The restaurant's coming together, tables picked out, menu planned, a cook hired, and I'm starting to believe I can do this. It's not just about the money, though that'll be nice. It's about showing Oliver we're more than what they said we were. More than a waiter and a kid they could laugh at. We're a team, and we're building something good. The phone rings, and it's Mr. Carter, checking in about paint colors for the walls. I step into the living room to talk, glancing back at Oliver as he eats. He's growing up fast, too fast sometimes, but he's still my little boy. The wedding feels like a lifetime ago now, all that noise and pain fading into the background. We've got a new chapter starting, one where I'm not just surviving, I'm living. And as I hang up and head back to the kitchen, I know one thing for sure. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together, and we'll be okay. Better than okay. We'll be us. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of papers spread out in front of me, the smell of coffee hanging in the air. It's been a few weeks since I mailed that letter to Beverly, and life's moving fast now, like a train I'm just barely keeping up with. Oliver's Kitchen is almost ready to open. Paint's dry, tables are set, and the sign went up yesterday, big black letters against a white background. Every time I drive by and see it, my chest tightens a little, not with worry, but with something else. Hope, maybe. I'm not used to feeling that, not after years of just getting by, but it's there, growing stronger every day. Tonight's different, though. I'm not working on restaurant stuff. I've got textbooks and a notebook open, a pen in my hand that's already smudged with ink. I enrolled in a business management course at the community college, using some of the money Mr. Carter's paying me to get started. It's online, so I can do it after Oliver's in bed, but it's hard, harder than I thought it'd be. Numbers and charts swim in front of my eyes, and half the words sound like they're made up, but I'm trying. I want this restaurant to work, not just for me, but for Oliver. I want him to see his dad as more than a guy who waits tables, more than the failure Beverly and Madeline made me out to be. The apartment's quiet, just the hum of the fridge and the occasional scratch of my pen. Oliver's in his room, probably asleep by now, his little snores carrying through the thin walls. I glance at the clock, past 10 already, and rub my eyes, feeling the ache from staring at the screen too long. I'm halfway through a chapter on profit margins when I hear his door creak open. He shuffles out, barefoot in his pajamas, his hair a mess and his eyes half closed. "Dad," he says, his voice sleepy. "You're still up?" I smile, setting the pen down. "Yeah, bud. Just studying. You okay?" He nods, rubbing his face, and climbs into the chair next to me. "Couldn't sleep," he mumbles, resting his head on his arms on the table. I push the papers aside and lean back, watching him. He's growing so fast, his legs dangling closer to the floor than they used to. But he's still small, still my kid. "Bad dream?" I ask, and he shakes his head. "No, just thinking." I wait, knowing he'll tell me when he's ready. He's like that, quiet until he's got something to say. After a minute, he looks up at me, his blue eyes clearer now. "Dad, will you ever marry again?" The question catches me off guard, and I blink, not sure what to say. It's not something I've thought about much, not since Madeline left, anyway. That whole mess burned me bad, and the idea of trusting someone like that again feels far away, like a road I'm not ready to walk down. But Oliver's watching me, waiting, and I can't just brush it off. I laugh a little, trying to keep it light. "One day, maybe," I say, leaning forward on my elbows. "But she won't be anything like your mom's family." He grins, quick and bright, and sits up straighter. "Good. I don't like rich snobs." I laugh again, louder this time, and it feels good, shaking off some of the weight of the night. "Me neither, bud," I say, and we're both smiling now, the kitchen warm and cozy around us. He's right. They were snobs. All of them, looking down on us like we were less because we didn't have their money or their fancy houses. I don't want that kind of life, and I don't want it for him either. We sit there for a bit, the silence easy between us. I think about his question, though, turning it over in my head. Marriage? Love? It's hard to picture after everything. Madeline was my world once, and when she left, she took a big piece of me with her. But sitting here with Oliver, I don't feel empty anymore. I've got him, and now I've got this restaurant, this chance to build something new. Maybe one day there'll be someone else, someone kind, someone real, but I'm not in a rush. I've got enough on my plate, and for now that's okay. "You should go back to bed," I tell him, nodding toward his room. He groans but slides off the chair, stretching his arms. "You too, Dad. Don't stay up too late." I chuckle, he's sounding like me now, and watch him shuffle back down the hall. The door clicks shut, and I'm alone again with my books. I pick up the pen, but I don't start writing right away. I just sit there, thinking about dreams, mine, his, ours. The restaurant's one, and this course is another, a way to make sure I don't mess it up. I want Oliver to see me succeed, to know he can too, no matter what anyone says. The clock ticks on, and I dive back into the chapter, my handwriting messy but determined. It's late, and my eyes are burning, but I keep going. Dreams are starting again for me, slow and steady, and they're not just about surviving anymore. They're about living, really living. With Oliver by my side, I've got all the reason I need to keep pushing. One day, maybe there'll be more, a family, a partner, but right now, this is enough. More than enough. It's a beginning, and it's ours. I'm standing outside Oliver's kitchen, the keys jangling in my hand as I lock the door for the night. The air's cool, a little breeze tugging at my jacket, and the street's quiet except for the hum of a car passing now and then. The sign above me glows softly, Oliver's Kitchen, in big, simple letters, and I can't help but stare at it for a second, feeling that mix of pride and disbelief that's been with me since we opened a month ago. Inside, the tables are wiped down, the kitchen's clean, and the day's receipts are tucked in my pocket, better numbers than I expected for a Thursday. It's not the Blackwood Grand Hotel, not even close, but it's mine, and it's working. Oliver's waiting by the curb, his backpack slung over one shoulder, scribbling in that notebook he's always got with him lately. The streetlight catches his face, his messy hair glowing a little, and he looks up as I step closer. "Dad?" he calls, his voice carrying over the empty sidewalk. "You're happy now, right?" It's a simple question, but it stops me in my tracks, my boots scuffing against the pavement. I look at him, his blue eyes searching mine, and I see that same strength he showed back at the wedding. The way he stood up, small but fearless, and turned everything around. It's still there, in the way he holds himself, the way he waits for my answer. I take a breath, letting it out slow, and smile. "Yeah, kid, I am." The words feel solid, real, and for the first time in a long time, I mean them. Not just saying it to make him feel better, not just pushing through like I used to, but really feeling it, deep down where it counts. He grins back, quick and bright, and goes back to his notebook, his pencil moving fast across the page. I step over and sit on the curb next to him, the concrete cold through my jeans, and peek at what he's writing. It's a story, something about a kid and his dad opening a restaurant, fighting off mean rich people with a magic phone. I laugh, soft and low, and he glances at me, smirking like he knows it's us. The night's settling in, stars popping out above the city lights, and I lean back on my hands, looking up. It's been a long road to get here. Years of double shifts, of scraping by, of feeling like I'd never be enough. Madeline leaving me, Beverly's sneers, the demotion to waiter. It all piled up, heavy and dark, until I thought that was all I'd ever have. But sitting here now, with Oliver next to me and the restaurant behind us, it doesn't feel like that anymore. It's not just about the money, though having some extra helps. It's about the strength we've built, the way we've come through it all together. He's my rock, this little kid who's tougher than I'll ever be, and I'm starting to think I'm his too. I think back to that wedding sometimes, the way it all fell apart. Celia crying, James walking out, Beverly's face when she realized she'd lost control. It's a memory now, sharp but fading, like an old photo I don't pull out much. The restaurant's my focus these days, and it's good. People come in, regulars already, smiling at me and Oliver when he's there after school. They don't know the whole story, don't need to, just see a guy and his kid running a place with decent food and a warm feel. Mr. Carter stops by sometimes, claps me on the shoulder, and says I'm doing great, and I believe him. The business course is helping too, slow as it goes, giving me ideas to keep this thing growing. Oliver closes his notebook and stretches, yawning big. "Can we go home now?" he asks, and I nod, standing up and brushing off my hands. "Yeah, let's get out of here." We walk to the car, parked a few spots down, and I unlock it, letting him climb in first. The engine rumbles to life, and as we pull onto the street, I glance at him in the passenger seat. He's leaning against the window, his eyes half closed, but he's still got that little smile. "You did good today," I say, meaning the way he helped bus tables after school, charming the customers with his chatter. He shrugs, sleepy. It's fun. The drive home's quiet, the city lights blurring past, and I feel a calm I haven't known in years. This is our life now. Hard work, sure, but ours. No more bowing my head to people who think they're better, no more letting their words cut me down. Oliver showed me that night at the wedding what we're made of, and I'm holding on to it. We're strong, stronger than I ever thought, and it's not just about surviving anymore. It's about building something, a future we can stand tall in. When we get home, Oliver heads straight for bed, and I lock up, the apartment small but ours. I sit on the couch for a minute, the day settling over me, and I think about his question again. Happy? Yeah, I am. Not perfect, not easy, but happy. With him, with this place, with the man I'm becoming. It's enough. It's more than enough. I turn off the light and head to bed, knowing tomorrow's another day at Oliver's kitchen, another step forward. And for the first time in a long time, I'm ready for it.